Previously on Funny Science Fiction.
I had no idea where Star Wars was going to go. So they just brought back Satan, I guess. Space Satan, the Emperor.
Satan.
So Satan was the guy.
Hello, and welcome to the Funny Science Fiction Podcast.
The podcast where Darth Vader cutting off Luke's hand isn't the worst dad joke ever. So our guest today is the wonderful actress. Her name is Julie Dolan. Now, you know her voice if you have watched Star Wars Rebels, you've played any Star Wars video games, Final Fantasy games. You probably even know her from another show called The Gilmore Girls, which my daughter knows her from and was like, hey, I know her. So welcome to the show, Julie. We're very happy to have you here today.
I'm happy to be here. Thank you. You did your homework.
We try. We have to keep up with the nerd motto, and usually nerds are pretty well educated on things, and so we try to be educated. Ish.
That's true. Yes.
Heavy on the ish.
Yeah. Well, it's great to be here.
Yeah, we're glad to have you. So we come from a sci-fi page on Facebook with a very large sci-fi group. We're at about 108,000 followers on the group page right now that listens to our show, and many of them are Star Wars fans, just like me. So we're going to start right off the bat with a Star Wars question.
Okay.
How did you prepare to step into an iconic role like Princess Leia? And what did it mean to you to be involved with that level of a character?
My first Leia job was not Rebels.
Okay.
My first Leia job was, if you ever go to Disneyland or Disney World and you go on the Star Tours ride, and if you happen to get the hologram of Leia talking to the star speeders in the ride, that's my voice.
That was you.
That was my first audition, or the first job that I booked for Leia.
Awesome.
And that will outlive me. That'll be there forever.
Right. Yeah.
And so how I auditioned for that was just, I have a voiceover agent, and I do animation, and I do commercials and audiobooks. And she called me up and said, hey, can you sound like Princess Leia? Now, granted, I saw the movie back in 1977 when I was a kid.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not a nerd like that, where I followed every single movie and followed all that
Sure.
kind of, I'm a dork, but I'm not a nerd in that sense. So I did see the first three movies, and then I kind of went, yeah, not my thing.
Fair enough.
I grew up as a dancer. So I was tap dancer, jazz, ballet. Musicals were my thing. I mean, Singing in the Rain was my favorite movie. And
Okay.
I danced with Gene Kelly and Ann Miller and all the old school hoofers.
Oh, that's awesome.
So that's where my focus was growing up, is watching all the musicals. And then, of course, I did musicals when I was younger. And then on the flip side, I liked horror films. I mean, I saw The Exorcist 11 times. I was a fandom of horror films.
Okay.
So science fiction and space kind of stuff didn't really fit in. If I had my choice, rather than go future in the space, I would rather go backwards in time. That's where my kind of entertainment lies.
Okay.
So when I got this audition, I was like, oh man, I better do my homework. And they sent me the Obi-Wan Kenobi speech, the General Kenobi. Years ago, you served my father in the Clone Wars, and they wanted me to sound just like that. So I would play her the speech, and I would talk along with it. And I would go, oh, my voice is too high. Okay, I got to lower my voice a little bit. Oh, she's got that kind of weird accent, and I've got to get that in there. And I've had to match the rhythm, the emotion, the way the gait, the way her speed, everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then you take away the training wheels and you have to do it on your own. It's easy when you're doing it with her, because
Right.
you can kind of fall into that rhythm. I did the same thing for Barbra Streisand. I voiced Barbra Streisand in a movie. I don't sound like Barbra Streisand, but they let me, they heard something in my voice that was like, you could. So they gave me the scene, and I, did the same thing. And eventually I walked out of the studio sounding like Barbra Streisand. So anyway, I sent my audition in. I did it as best I could. My husband coached me on it and said, a little bit lower here, a little bit faster here. And we sent it in. I didn't hear anything for a couple of weeks. And then my agent called and said, you have a callback. Now in voiceover, you don't really have callbacks. Like on camera, you have callbacks, but I've never known to have a lot of callbacks on voiceover. Maybe for big things like this, they would rather bring in a couple of people. So
Sure.
it was me and two other girls, and we went into Disney Imagineering over in Burbank. It's a studio over in Burbank. And they brought in a vocal coach, Eliza Jane Schneider. She does accents, and they wanted to get that slight English accent. She also coaches actors. So she coached me on just the emotion and what I am what I'm saying. Cause I had no idea what this was for. They don't tell you anything.
Right.
So I get to the studio and I'm like, Star Speeder, what am I saying? So she had to kind of coach me through what I was saying without telling me what the project was. So I was in this big, beautiful studio in Disney, and I was they had a hologram of Leia right in front of me, so I could kind of relate to the character. So I knew, you could look at who you were supposed to portray.
Okay.
And we did it a couple times. The director directed me a couple of times, and then I stepped out of the studio, and they said, "Look," and I turned around, and they had a screen, and they had the same hologram, and she was talking. It was Leia talking, doing the Obi-Wan Kenobi speech, but my voice was coming out of her mouth saying what I just recorded, and her mouth was manipulated to look like what I was saying. It's almost like they took my mouth. And they almost did that. They almost wanted to take the person's mouth and put it there, but they were able to. Disney is magic. I mean, they're so magical. So they were able to manipulate the mouth to make it look like, change the words. And I looked at it and I said, is that me, or is that Carrie Fisher? They went, no, that's just what you recorded. Wow. That's when I realized, wow, with coaching, it really made a difference in allowing, but I have a little bit of her voice anyway in my natural speaking voice.
Yeah.
So that helped. So then I left, and there was two other girls that I guess auditioned and did the same thing. And then I got the call that I booked the job. So I went back into the studio and we did the exact same thing. And it was only a week and a half later. So it still was in my body. I could call it up and do the speech, and it was no problem. So I was in there a couple of hours.
Okay.
3 weeks later, I get a call. You have to come back in and do it again. And of course, as an actor, you're like, oh God, I sucked. What did I do wrong? What do they want? Why didn't they tell me then? What do I do? So apparently it was a mic placement. They wanted it to sound more like a hologram, and they couldn't get the special effects or the post to do it. So they just placed the microphone in a different place. And I just did the whole thing all over again. And I recalled it like that. So it wasn't that long later. So
That's cool.
it was no problem. And then we waited, and I couldn't tell anybody anything. And
of course.
we waited. And then I get an invitation a year later, I think, to the premiere. So we go to, my agent and I go to Disneyland. Now I get seasick a little bit. So I got on that ride, and I remember going on that ride before it was the new Star Tours adventure. And I said, last time I rode this, I got sick. So let's hope for the best. And let's hope we get Leia, because you don't know who you're going to get. There's so many different holograms that come up and talk to the people in the ride. Sure enough, we got Leia. And the first thing I thought was, oh my God, everyone's going to know it's me. And it doesn't even sound like her. It sounds just like me. And they're going to look at me and go, why did they cast you? So we were with, it's an actor's nightmare. We were with my agent's friend who didn't know me that well. And when we got off the ride, he went, you sounded exactly like Leia. And then people when we were in there, people were like, oh my God, is that Carrie Fisher? They were like talking amongst themselves. And I thought, oh, okay, I just got validated as an actor or as a voice actor. Yeah. Well, apparently Dave Filoni saw that, and I don't know, 5 years later, called me and said, hey, I want you to come in and do a little thing for Disney. It's a little in-house project. So I went in and did a kind of a motion capture or performance capture. I wore the helmet, and I had to talk to our C3PO and R2D2, and I had to do a scene with them. I think he wanted to see if I could act as opposed to just having the voice.
Right.
So as soon as I did that, he said, okay, you're going to be coming in for Rebels in a couple of weeks. Oh my God. So
Okay.
I said to my agent, did I just book that job? She said, yeah, I think you did. I think that was probably the audition. So I had to start watching Rebels because, you know, I'm watching horror films and musicals.
Right.
I'm watching Singing in the Rain, and I started watching Rebels, and I thought, you know, this is a game changer. This is huge for me. I need to put in the time as I would if I was doing an on-camera actor and do research on this character. So I looked up Wikipedia on Princess Leia, Wikipedia on Princess Leia. My husband and I went on vacation to Hawaii, and I brought all 6 movies with me. There were only 6 at the time. And I sat in my hotel room and watched them over and over and over. And just to get to know what Padme was like. Oh, this is my mom. I see where I got my strength from. And this is Senator Organa who raised me. I see where I worked for him. And I mean, all of this research I had to do, and the backstory of who is who and when these things happened, because the fans know all this stuff. And I didn't know I was even going to associate with fans because I didn't know what conventions were at that time. I didn't even know what cosplay was.
Oh yeah.
The only convention I knew was NAMM, which is for music. So being a musician, I've been to NAMM. Never been to Comic-Con or any of these conventions. And I was told, you're going to be going to these. You're going to be, oh, really? Okay. And the fans are going to talk to you. You better know your stuff. And so Disney, Lucasfilm, the publicity department said, you might want to do a little research because you're going to get a lot of interviews. And I did. I got called like once every other day for an interview, and I did my research. And the first couple of interviews, the publicity department kind of sat on the other line while I was on the phone with these interviews. And she said, I'm here as a crutch in case you need anything. If you get stuck or they ask you something you don't know or you can't reveal, I'm right here. They were so great. And then after about 5, she said, you know what you're doing. You're on your own.
Mm-hmm. There you go.
So yeah, and I've been continuing to do them for years and started doing the conventions. What a whole new family that I belong to in Star Wars.
Nice.
It's amazing with all, and I started watching, you know, more movies and the TV shows and this and that. And so I was able to converse with the people that would come to the fans that would come to the convention. And we had a great time talking. A lot of times they would bring up stuff that I had no idea what they were talking about, you know, because it's been a couple of years since I did this, but sure, I'll listen to what, you know, Obi-Wan Kenobi is doing now. I don't know. I wasn't, you know. So, but I've done so many events, live events. It's just, it's changed my world. It's just changed my life, you know,
awesome.
Voiceover wise. Yeah.
I got to say, I really love the sass you brought to Princess Leia's character in Rebels. So what was it that said, hey, I want to start doing voiceovers? Like, what was it to you that?
I was mainly on camera and a dancer. That's what I did. I did danced on TV and film and in costume though, like what's behind you. I was in costume. Dancing. I danced with Eddie Murphy as a pig. I was with the basketball guys. I was the big beer barrel.
Your beers, mascot. Yes.
Oh yeah. The beers. So I started doing these. I worked at Universal Studios in the children's, like all the children's shows, dancing as an animal. And then I started getting like these little Universal home videos and things like that. And they were all costume. And they said to me, hey, can you do a little voiceover here? Can you play that flower? Can you play this? So I kept booking voiceover jobs, not ever thinking I would have a career in it, ever. It didn't even dawn on me. That was a whole other career that you had to do. You got to get another agent, you got to do a demo, and you've got auditions. And So my sister said, you should probably put a little bit of effort into voiceover. You're booking it anyway. Why don't you just see what happens? No, I don't want to do that. I got, I'm busy. I thought, all right, I'll give it a shot. So I took a voiceover class thinking I'm going to learn, how to do voiceovers. And basically it was an acting class behind the mic. It was different technique, but it was the same diving into your character and working from the inside out, and what do you want and who are you talking to, and I mean it was the same stuff. So after I did the class, after 4 weeks, then you're able to do a voiceover demo with the same teacher, and I went, great. All of a sudden I was in 5 bands. My bands started working 24/7. I was learning songs, I was gigging, I was out of town. A year later I was like, oh, I guess it's time to do my demo, and I've forgotten everything. So I went back and took the 4-week class and did my demo. I sent 2 demos out to 2 different agents. A really big one that I said, there's no way they're gonna bring me in. Who am I? And a pretty high up agent that a friend of mine recommended. And that's who I signed with, coast to coast. And I was with her for 10 years, and she became such a good friend and guided my voiceover career. She gave me all this advice and just really I got commercials and got Leia several times. And then after about 11 years, I switched agents, which propelled me to the next level.
Awesome.
Yeah. So that's how I got started in voiceover, just sort of step by step. I
Just
did the
kinda
work
happened.
and you just don't know.
So
Oh, go ahead.
no, you're fine.
When I was younger, I was a big fan of the Twilight Zone.
Okay.
Is that considered science fiction?
Oh yeah.
Oh, okay. And I also watched Mystery Science Theater. I was a huge fan of that in the 90s.
Yeah.
And so I was able to watch science fiction movies, but through the eyes of improv actors. So I was
Nice.
able to get best of both worlds.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well,
But
that's
I actually ended up doing an episode of Twilight Zone back in the 80s. When I was playing
Okay.
teenagers. And it was a famous episode based on Charles Beaumont, I think, wrote it. Dead Man's Shoes was
Okay.
the episode. The episode I did was Dead Woman's Shoes, and Helen Mirren was in it, and Jeffrey
neat.
Tambor.
Oh,
So
neat.
yeah. So and I just did a movie a couple of years ago that's kind of science fiction-y called Chomping and the Girls, and it's sort of science fiction-y with absurdity and
Sure.
comedy and fear and scary and what the heck is that? So yeah. And I was actually up for Night of a Comet, which is a mystery or science fiction back in the 80s. That Catherine O'Hara or Catherine, I don't know, some famous actress got the part. There's a lot of movies that I was up for that somebody else got the part, like Karate Kid, and Helen Hunt and I were up for a lot of parts together, and look where they all are. But I get to do Leia, so
I was gonna say, but none of them have gotten to be Princess Leia, so
no, that's true.
there you go. So I also noticed that you have some video game voice acting credits to your resume, such as Lego Star Wars Uprising, Disney Infinity, all those you did the voice of Leia in, but you also did the Final Fantasy VII remake, from what I saw as well. Now, my question about all of this is your approach for video game acting different than acting for an animated role, or is it similar?
It's the same. I mean, again, technically, it's different. Video games, you yell a lot because you're yelling over fire, like gunfire,
Sure.
or you're yelling over explosions or something. But as an actor, you have to know who you are and what your goals are and where you just came from when you come into the room and where you're going and what you want. That is basis. That doesn't change, whether it's video, whether it's theater. I do a lot of theater, or used to, when you could go to the theater. And when you're doing a feature, when you're doing voiceover on camera, for me, it's the same muscle. It's just different on the outside.
Sure. Okay.
And for the video games of Leia, this is interesting. The first video game I did, I think I did young Leia's voice. I did, from A New Hope. And then I went in to do another one, and I'm sitting in the parking lot, and they texted me. I was ready to go into the studio, and they said, "Oh, by the way, you're doing General Leia, not Princess Leia."
Oh yeah,
I thought,
age difference.
whoa, wait a minute. And I said, what? Sounds. I don't do that voice. And they said, listen to Carrie Fisher's interviews currently. So, I'm in my car going, YouTube, Carrie Fisher, current interview. And
Curveball.
I tried to match the voice, and she's got a little bit of the
Little rasp.
gravelly.
Yeah.
So I went in and I did 2 video games with that voice. I did my best, but I listen back to it now and I'm like, there's other actresses that I happen to know that sound like that naturally, that could do that. And one of them, 2 of them actually booked video games doing it. And I went, yeah, they sound great. And then I got called in after Carrie passed away. I got called in to do some of her dialogue on The Last Jedi.
Oh.
And I went into Disney and we worked with Ryan Johnson, and it was a little intimidating because I knew I had to really reach for that voice, and it was only a couple of words, or a couple of lines. And so we did the session and they said, great, sounds good. And then I found out they ended up being able to salvage most of her voice and her dialogue. But I think there were a couple of words that they brought somebody else in who sounds just like her at that age.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I was like, good. Yes, I would have done the same thing. I would have not have used me, but I was very grateful that they brought me in for that.
That's cool. Still, Now looking at your website, which by the way, kids, is www.juliedolan.com. I also noticed that you're a bit of a rock star, so a little bit of a double threat. Well, if we throw in the dancing, we got a triple threat. So we're a dancer, we're a rock star, we're Princess Leia, and what I count
that's my life.
What's that?
We can make it a quadruple, because we can make it a quadruple threat, because she was a magician assistant at one point.
Well, see, there you go. All right, so quadruple threat. You're just all over the place. This is awesome. And I count to be at least 4 bands that you're in. It looks like currently 4 bands. So can you tell us about these 4 different bands and what instrument you play and what's your favorite style of music? What's if you had to pick a style, this is where Julie wants to hang her hat and banging that drum or keyboard all day.
I started piano at 9 years old in a convent, being taught by a nun. No, I'm not kidding. And I've always played piano. I always had a piano. My mom always had a piano for me, and I took lessons. And then I just sort of dropped it because I was making a living as a dancer and an actor. And I dated every musician in LA though, so I still had that music connection. And speaking of music connection, my brother started a magazine called Music Connection, and it's still going to this day. It's one of the most popular music magazines.
Okay.
So I started jamming with my brother. He's a drummer. I play piano, and I play harmonica. Whatever's needed, I try to learn it. And every week I'd go to his house. We'd put headphones on, and he'd have his little electronic drum set, and I would have piano, and we would play Beatle music. We're huge Beatle fans.
Nice.
So we played all Beatle music, and then we kind of merged into the 60s. We had sheet music. We were harmonizing. We had such a great time. I looked forward to it every week. And then we brought in a guitar player. Hey, we need somebody to do the guitar solo. So we brought in a friend of ours. So now there's 3 of us. And then we did a couple of shows, private parties for people. That started it. And then my brother said, hey, I just saw in Dramalog, which Dramalog was the actors magazine. It's not called Dramalog anymore. He said, I saw somebody was advertising for an all-female 80s band. They're looking for a keyboard player. You should audition. And I went, I don't know 80s music. I like the 60s. And no, I'm scared. So I ended up borrowing my brother's keyboard because I didn't have one yet. I didn't have like a portable keyboard. And I went to the audition. They gave me 3 songs to learn. I think it was a Go-Go song and a Pat Benatar song and the Bangles, something like that.
Mm.
And I learned, and they gave me a whole list of songs that they wanted to do. I learned like 5 of them. I was like, I'm going to be, overachiever here and learn 5. So I went to the audition, which was at the bass player's house. And there's a drummer, girl drummer, bass player. We didn't have a guitar player yet, keyboard player and lead singer. And we started playing the songs. Well, the drummer kept saying, so when are we going to have beer? Playing her drums. And I was like, okay, why don't we play the songs first? And the bass player was like, what's the chord? What note are we on? So I was barking out the notes to her. The singer was great. And she and I were kind of keeping the momentum going for this rehearsal. And afterwards, I thought, okay, so my work ethic is different than the musicians. They kind of want to party and they don't do their homework. Being an actor, you are trained, you are disciplined, you get your stuff done or you don't work.
Right.
And I said to the lead singer, listen, thanks so much, but I'm going to pass. This ain't my thing. And she said, how about you and I take over and we'll find a band. We'll have auditions and we'll get a bass player, we'll get a guitar player, we'll get a drummer. Not these girls. And I said, you're on. So we auditioned girls in LA over and over and over. And we finally got our core band. We did our first gig. It was all 80s music. And I thought, I've always wanted to be a rock star. And now I've found this new life. Screw acting, screw dancing. This is it. I'm going to be a rock star. And I don't write music at all. I never written a song. Well, one time on Rock and Roll Fantasy Camp, which was a reality show, and I was forced to write a song. But I don't write music. I play other people's music. So it's not like I was I don't want to say real musician, but I'm not like a singer-songwriter musician looking for a record deal. Sure. I just want to play somebody else's music. You can make a lot of money if you're in tribute bands or if you're in cover bands.
If you're in good ones, yeah.
The lead singer and I had a falling out about a year later. And I said, tell you what, I miss playing 60s and 70s music with my brother. You guys do your thing. And it was scary for me to do this because I was giving up something I really loved. And I said, you guys go and take the name, take the band, and go. And the lead singer was, she had a lot of energy, and I'll just leave it at that. So each band member called me and said, we want to go with you. And I said, oh, it's going to look like I'm stealing you. I don't know. No. Please don't abandon her. So they said, we want to go with you. Okay, I'm going to start from the ground up. So I started a 60s, 70s, 80s classic rock, all-female band called the Undercover Girls, because we're undercover. I don't know. And we have made a living at it for, 15 years. That was the very first band that I created from the ground up. And then I started working with some musician friends of mine, and we created an In Excess tribute band that's been going for 15 years. And then I joined a 60s band called Summer of Love. And I fell in love with playing the 60s music. I loved dressing up like a hippie. I loved the harmonies.
Nice.
I was in that band for about 10 years. And then I was in an Alice Cooper tribute, and then a Cheap Trick. And then now I'm in an Aerosmith all-girl tribute. So it just keeps evolving. But if I had one genre, I love classic rock, but the 60s is my heart. And I'm in a band right now, which we're not really working, called Charlie's Angels. It's 3 girls and Charlie and Bosley. And we've done maybe 2 gigs, and we do the music from when the TV show aired, 76 to 81. I'm not crazy about the music from 76 to 81. You got to really dig deep to find songs that are popular, that everybody likes. That's not all disco, although the disco stuff people seem to like. So I'm kind of learning disco and going, this is good. But disco is hard for keyboards. There's horn sections, there's strings, there's piano, there's electric piano, there's organ. I got 2 hands. I can only do so much. And so, and I'm from this old school of no tracks. Everything's live.
Sure.
You can't do that. Even
No, not with that.
real band. No, and even real bands like Def Leppard, and you go see
More and more are
Styx.
using backing tracks.
Yes, and it's fine. Nobody cares. They want to see the
No,
show. I was in a Bon
exactly.
Jovi tribute for years. I love playing Bon Jovi, and they insisted on using some backing tracks just to fill in some of the vocals.
Mm-hmm.
No, we can do it live. Some of these gang vocals, shot through the heart. It
Yeah.
sounds like you got to have that. People
Right?
want to hear that.
Right.
So I said, okay, fine.
Well, it's either that or you got to take off your boots and start playing with your toes. You only have so many fingers.
Right. Yeah.
So earlier you said something about how you would play whatever was necessary, and like you were listing off several instruments that you do play. But what instrument would you like to learn to play? That
Saxophone.
you haven't? Saxophone.
Because there's a lot of sax. Like when we first did the NXS band, we didn't have a sax player, and I had to do all the sax parts on my keyboard, and it just didn't sound right. And it's hard to learn all those sax parts to make it sound right. And plus, I would have to take I had two keyboards. I would have to take my hands off the top keyboard, which was playing nice string pads, and I'd go down to play saxophone, and you'd lose a layer of the music. So we hired a sax player, changed my world because everything became easier, and the sound was so great, and it filled in, and it was sexy. And so there's a lot of music that has sax in it that I didn't realize.
Right.
Even the disco stuff, even Rolling Stones have sax, a lot of sax.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to learn the sax, but I ended up learning harmonica instead, which is nothing like a sax. But
if you pick up learning the saxophone, you'd be real popular with ska bands too. So I mean, there's that.
Yeah. True.
So I also noticed while looking at your bands that in one of them, the bass player for Undercover Girls is originally from Grand Rapids, Michigan.
Yeah, Terry.
Which is only like 40 minutes up the road from me. Yeah,
really?
Yeah. So on the map of Michigan, which is also my hand, I live here. Grand Rapids is just down here. So yeah.
I will tell her. I'll tell her.
Yeah. I mean, I really don't have a question for that. I just thought it was kind of one of those cool little factoids. I was going through your website and I'm like, hey, she's from Michigan. All right. But so I did notice that in your band, I believe you guys pronounce it Inexcessive.
Inexcessive, yes.
All right. So now I listened to the songs that you guys had online. I'm actually an NXS fan.
Oh.
So it is scary to me how much the lead singer sounds like Michael Hutchence. I dare to say that if I were to play your guys' songs and tell people that we were listening to NXS, that they would not be able to notice the difference. Mm-hmm. Musically, they're on point. Vocally, they're on point. It would be very easy to fool people to make them think that this is NXS and not a cover band. The songs are done that well. So other than me, who's seen a bunch of other cover bands, and none of them have sounded as good as what I think the NXS sound of your band sounds like, what has the reception by other fans been?
The fans are huge with us. They follow us around and absolutely have become our friends. We've traveled all over the world doing this. There's actually an Inexcessive in Australia, so we seem to get calls for them. It's like, no, we're not the ones there. You need to call them over there, unless you want to fly us over. That's fine.
Right.
But we there's a couple of Inexcess tributes, but not a lot. And you'd think we'd work more because we're the only one in this area, and we're the only one on this side of the United States. And it's just the U.S. promoters aren't sure if Inexcess is going to go over. But when they take a chance on us, we do. I mean, it's a great following. We've had two lead singers, and they're both from Australia. And the one that's currently with us actually had met Michael when he was younger, and he got called to do a TV show. It was a documentary about Michael Hutchence, and he played Michael. It's called The Last Rockstar, and he played Michael in some of the scenes that were in the studio. They didn't use his voice, but they used his moves and they used for some live things that they never got Michael doing. They used him, but he's studied Michael's voice and he naturally sounds like him anyway.
Yeah, I honestly, so of course, I think on the list of available songs to listen to, I think the first one was New Sensation.
Mhm.
And so that started up and I was like, yeah, exactly. Started doing the head bob. I'm like, wow,
Right?
that's, and then I'm like, and he starts right in with the vocals. I was like, holy crap, did they just like
Yeah.
put Hutchins' voice right into the band?
No.
It was honestly that good.
Thank you.
So please let him know that that from an NXS fan from Michigan, was blown away with how good his voice is.
You know,
So
he's a singer-songwriter and he has an album out and he works his butt off writing songs and creating content. And he's got a huge fan base. He's not science fiction, but you know, I can put you in contact with him because he'd be really interesting to talk to. So you're writing it down right now.
I'm ready.
I don't know it off the top of my head.
No, that's fine. We can talk afterwards and we'll
Yeah,
get
yeah,
the
yeah, yeah.
information from you. But no, I'd
Yeah.
very much be interested in learning a little bit more about him, hearing some of his other stuff.
I wasn't an INXS fan when I first. It's like I get all these jobs that I'm not fans of, and so I have to like do my homework and learn. But INXS is one of those bands that you listen to the songs and say, "I didn't know that was them." Of
Right,
course, I
yeah.
know this song. There was a lot of songs, and then some of the songs that I'd never heard that people were requesting us to play. I went, I don't want to learn any more songs. We've got our set. We've got our 90-minute set. That's all we need for casinos and festivals. And the lead singer's like, you have no idea some of these great songs that we haven't learned yet, and people are requesting them. So I listened to some of these new songs. These guys are great. And
Oh,
then
yeah.
when you watch the footage, I watch the footage because I'm watching the keyboard player, Andrew Ferris, to see actually when he's playing the shakers, when he's actually playing the piano, what he's singing on, because I want to play when he's playing, what he's singing on, if I can. So I'm watching all the concerts. Oh my God. I watched, I think it was Wembley, and I felt like I was there. And I'm so sorry that I never got to see them when they were here.
Yeah, they NXS Kick and X were pretty major in my end of middle school going into high school years, and those were really major albums for that part of my youth. But I think my favorite song by them, I didn't see it on your list, but is Don't Change. But
That's, of course that's what we close with. Yeah, every time.
Yeah, I love that song. So well done.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
So,
that's there. If it's not there, I'll have to add it because that's what we play.
An amazingly beautiful song. So I'd love to hear. I would love to hear his voice on that. Your singer's voice on that song. So
I probably have something live.
Okay.
If it's not on the website, I have shows that we've done live that probably have a little bit of that.
Okay.
Of that.
Cool.
I did see INXS a couple of years ago with JD Fortune when he won.
Oh yeah.
The
Pretty
Rockstar.
Vegas and yeah.
Yeah, Pretty Vegas. We did that song for a while. I love that
That's
song.
a great
it's a really
song.
Good song. Yeah.
So music is a huge part of like any movie you watch, any video game you play, etc. It's like a very influential piece of culture for humans in general. What was your musical influence? And I think you brought this up earlier, that made you want to get into music.
Other than Lady Madonna at the convent. So
right.
It was Beatles.
Awesome.
My brother was a big Beatles fan, and he's much older than I am, but he turned me on to the Beatles and the harmonies. So I kind of grew up singing Beatles songs. I thought they were the only band in the world. As a kid, you're like, oh yeah, I like this band. I like this music. Oh, there's others. And then I started listening to The Who and Tommy, and I was like,
oh, nice.
I got into, as an actor, you kind of get into that rock opera, and there's a whole story behind it.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
So which Beatles song was it for you?
Probably one of the early ones, around the She Loves You, Help.
That's a great era.
Then when Sgt. Pepper came out, that was like orchestration and harpsichords and much more piano.
Yeah.
And so that
It really started
opened up my
expanding.
world.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
well,
was
George Martin. It
Yeah,
was
I
George
was
Martin that
really,
opened that.
really big. I fluctuate back and forth between Rubber Soul and Revolver as being my top two favorites.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so those are, I listen to those on vinyl quite often. So
Oh, nice.
yeah. So, um, in away from the topic of music, but back into some sci-fi nerdery real quick here. In the days of yesteryear when we were allowed to congregate together, back whenever that was, remember
Yeah.
when people used to go to those Comic-Con things and enjoyed nerding out together? Ugh, I miss those. I miss
Me
those
too.
days.
Me
So
too.
now for fans, it was a chance for us to see actors from our beloved movies, TV shows, video games, and have a chance to interact with them. But for you, being the actor on the other side of the coin, what was it that you liked most about Comic Cons? Now, you mentioned earlier that you had a chance to, you had to go, you realized that you needed to learn your craft and your information about what you were acting with as Leia and so forth. But what did you like most about the Comic Cons?
You're talking as a guest, because I did eventually go to Comic-Con as just a patron and walk around and see everything.
Let's ask
You're
both. One as the actor in the role, meeting
Okay.
the fans, and then also what do you, knowing that you went as Julie,
Yeah.
what did you, we'll ask both sides. So first, as an actor, what did you like about those type of situations or those type of events?
Just seeing how many fans there are, and the family, the closeness that I felt with somebody I'd never met before. And I get a lot of requests for autographs. They'll email me through my website, and
Mhm.
I have a store on eBay. And just being able to email with these people, and they're like, "Is this really you?" Yeah, it's me. I'm just, I just did an audition. I'm sitting around. What do you need? Can I have an autograph? Yeah, go to my store. What do you want me to say on it? And I mean, a lot of times they don't realize they're talking to me, and I was like, I'm just a regular person. You're like the nicest person in there. No, I'm not. I'm just, I'm just normal. But going to these conventions, you actually get to meet these people in person, and
Yeah.
you get to take, stand next to them and take a picture. I bring my lightsaber, and we do this lightsaber thing. And
Nice.
I have so much fun with this. And plus walking around, um, seeing all the apps and what they're doing now, and
Mhm.
a lot of I'm being a child actor. I have a lot of child actor friends, so they do all these conventions too. But theirs is a little bit different. Mine's more Star Wars based, or science fiction, or
Sure.
video games, anime, things like that. And it, and the cosplay, like the first time I saw cosplay, I was blown away at the detail that these people do.
Oh
This is
yeah.
what they do.
Oh, they
And
live for it,
yeah.
and it's
Um,
awesome.
I remember one guy brought me, this is not cosplay, but this is one of the most exciting moments. And I don't know why. He brought a Darth Vader helmet and wanted me to sign it. Me? You want me to sign your helmet? Yes, of course I'll sign it.
That's
It was
cool.
just I have a picture of me signing it. I have a picture of him, with me signing it, because I'm a fan of that. That
Right.
was so cool.
Dear
it's-
Dad.
Yeah. So it's just meeting and seeing the rush of people and how devoted they are, and this is their life, and
Yeah.
I'm just so proud to be there. To a lot of people would say, I came here just to meet you. Oh my God, I just want to cry when they say that. My heart just bursts. I have to, like, people are watching me. I have to watch what I say, watch what I do. You just have to be careful of that stuff. And
Right.
so yeah, it's meeting the people.
Well, for us,
Now,
this is kind of our form of a Comic-Con. We get to invite people on who have been in shows that we appreciate and we like watching and we liked, and we were talking about, hey, who should we try and get on the show? We were honestly both like, we should talk to the lady who does the voice for Princess Leia and Rebels. How cool would that be to talk to Princess Leia? And I'm like, yeah, I bet she's got some other cool stuff we got to talk to her about. Yeah, we need to talk to her. Let's go find out who that is. Find her name. And so we found out your name, and we're like, okay, we got to talk with Julie. And that's when I started reaching out to you over Twitter, is because Nick had already seen Rebels a couple times. And I've told people this, and I kind of regret it. I didn't get into Rebels early. I saw like the first episode of it, and I'm like, oh, this is for kids. It's a watered down Star Wars. I don't want to watch it. Truthfully, all Star Wars is for kids, but that's another topic.
It's for
But
big kids too.
it's for the big, really big kids.
Yeah.
And I started watching Rebels, and because Nick kept telling me you got to watch Rebels, it gets better, and I'm like, okay, fine. So I watched it, and then I was like, I get to season 4, and I'm like, but there's no more Rebels, and so
Yeah.
but yeah. So for us, this is our version of Comic-Con. We like to have people on that have impacted us or affected us, and so for us, this is very cool to sit here and talk with you about your experiences through it and what you've done, and so it's our chance to say thank you for what you do, and so we really appreciate it.
You're welcome.
So what are some upcoming projects that we can look forward to, either music, voice, that you would like to share with our audience?
Well, nobody's really gigging much right now, but my all-girl Aerosmith band, which was formed right before COVID, and we've done a couple of like live streaming shows called the Ragdolls. We are in the process of like learning a whole catalog of music, prepping. We
Nice.
have a really good manager, and he's starting to book for July because casinos are starting to book. They built outdoor stages. There's a lot of drive-in theater kind of
Yeah.
shows, but if the vaccine happens and everybody's healthy and things go back to somewhat normal, they're going to start doing indoor shows again, which that's where I worked a lot. I did a lot of festivals, but the casinos there's so many casinos like Arizona. I can drive to Arizona with my gear in the car. They put you up for 2 nights or 1 night. You do your show and you drive home. I mean,
Right.
that's what it's like. You're on the road a lot. So the Ragdolls is probably what's up and coming for me because I'm really putting a lot of time into learning
Okay.
Aerosmith songs, and I had no idea how many keyboards, and there's horns and there's strings and lots of harmonies so there's 6 of us in the band. In Aerosmith, I had no idea.
Mm-hmm.
And Final Fantasy, we didn't talk about that. That came out of nowhere for me. I just auditioned for some lady named Elmira, did not know what this was because, like, again, they don't tell you.
Sure.
And when I got the job, my agent said, "Do you know what this is?" And I said, "No." She said, "It's Final Fantasy VII, the remake." Of Google, Final Fantasy VII remake or Final Fantasy original 7, which hadn't been done since, I don't know, 1970 something or 90 something. Anyway,
90s.
Mhm.
Yeah.
90s. And it was like all this pixelated little characters and no voices. Everything was typed.
Right.
But I saw the story. Yes. I saw who Elmira was. I
Mhm.
saw her daughter, Aerith, her stepdaughter. I saw how they met. Oh my God, I learned so much by watching this. And then, of course, there's Wikipedia on Final Fantasy and Elmira. So when I got to the studio, the director said, "Now, I know this is a big secret, but do you have any idea?" "Yes, I do. I did my homework last night. I know exactly who I am and what I want and where I'm going and who, So they were
That's
very
awesome.
happy about that. And it was an interesting process because they had first done it in Japan with Japanese voiceovers.
Mhm.
And when they brought it here, they took out the mouth. So she wasn't, a lot of times when you're doing, it was dubbing, you watch the mouth. So you can match
Sure.
for Rebels, they were creating it off of me. It wasn't drawn yet. They had a camera on me and were watching my moves so they could draw the character. This
That's
way,
cool. Yeah.
I was watching the screen. And usually I was waiting for the mouth to move and they go, no, they took out the mouth. So you have to watch her movements. When she puts her hands on her hips, that's when you have to say no. So I had to rhythmically, and being a musician helped. I had to rhythmically watch where she was walking and when she said these lines and then be emotional about it. I mean, it was an emotional couple of scenes. I had no idea that video games could get this emotional. What a
Oh, yeah.
great story. Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I'm sorry,
That's
what was your
cool.
question again?
No, you did fine. You answered it.
We didn't
upcoming.
talk about Comic-Con, me flipping it around and
Oh,
going
right,
to
right, right.
Comic-Con.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, it's so overwhelming but they send you all the materials and the book and the guide and the schedule. And I downloaded the app, which is what you have to do. And I scheduled, I want to see this speaker, and I want to go to this convention, and I want to go to this person who signs. And you schedule everything on your phone, and you have to find out, okay, well, where is this room located? Am I going to make it to the next room in time? And then you get there and you have to stand in line. So if you're not organized, it can be chaotic, and it's still chaotic because you walk in and it's the energy and the people, and you're kind of squishing through people to try to get to where you need to go. But I had my list of who I needed to see and where I wanted to go. And if I hadn't had that, it would have been too chaotic and overwhelming for me.
Oh yeah, they jam pack them in, which is kind of cool because you get to see a lot of cosplay and a lot of fans all along the way. So, well, this has been cool. Thank you, Julie. This has been a great conversation, a lot of fun. And we're coming to the end of this here, but before we let you go and we sign off here, we have a game that we like to play with every one of our guests. It's a little quiz game. Okay. So now if we'll ask you 5 questions, and if you get 3 of them right, we're going to send you one of these really cool I gave to the Red Shirt Widows and Orphans coffee mugs. Okay. And it also has our logo on the backside, the Funny Science Fiction Podcast.
Cool.
If you get 4 right, we're going to send you that mug along with this book called Custodians of the Cosmos, which is a sci-fi themed book written by Drayton Allen, which is Nick's dad. And
nice.
Drayton is the reason why we're here. He started our Facebook group, and our Facebook group spawned this podcast, and he helped host for a little while. And but anyway, it's really kind of a cool book. It's based upon somebody who wanted to be in Star Trek. The Federation couldn't quite make it, so he decided to become a custodian on one of the Starfleet ships. And so it's about those who boldly go to clean up after those who boldly just went. So anyway, and we'll make sure that Drayton puts a little bit of calligraphy in the front of it there for you. Okay.
Thanks.
So this quiz is called the Same First Name Quiz.
You didn't tell her what happens if she doesn't get any right.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, I forgot. So there has to be, of course, there's consequences. If you get less than 3, we take a picture of your face, we make a meme out of you, and we put it in our group. So
okay.
It's not a steep consequence. It's more of a fun sequence. How about that?
Fun sequence. We're gonna stick with that.
We're gonna stick with a fun sequence. That's gonna be part of it from going on forward, I think. All right. So this is called. So if you're okay with those, we'll proceed with the game.
Okay.
If you're okay with that. All right. Cool. All right. So this is what we call the Same First Name Quiz. I'm going to read you a hint, or Nick and I will read you hints interactively, and we'll give you a hint based on one person who's an actor and one person who's a musician, and you have to tell us their first name that they have in common, based on the quiz on the hint.
What? Okay.
Okay. It's not as hard as it sounds. I promise.
Okay.
So, and maybe I didn't explain it very well, but yeah. So
we'll see.
All right, we're gonna find out. All right. So Nick, you start us off.
One was a singer from some Beatles and grew some wings, and the other was a computer with a vision.
So what 2 people have the same first name? One person out of the Beatles and this person who played Vision. Paul, yeah. So Paul McCartney and Paul Bettany.
Okay.
All right, so that's what we're looking for. That you get your hint, and we're looking for the first name.
Okay, that one counts, right?
Yes.
Yes, that was one of the 5. Absolutely. All right. So one was Mr. Mom and became a bat in the night. The other was from down under and wanted a new sensation.
Michael.
All right. So Michael Keaton and Michael Hutchins.
Yeah.
All right.
One was an Iron Patriot who hung with Stark, and the other drove his Chevy to a very dry levee.
Don,
yes. Yeah.
Why did you hesitate?
Because I thought you said John for a second.
Oh no, Don McLean.
Yeah, Don McLean, Don Shield.
Yep.
Well, I knew one of those.
Yeah.
And the other's Don Chedley.
Is it Chedley or Shield? Is it
I
Chedley?
don't know.
You don't even know.
No, we're gonna. Well, that's the problem. If we ever have Don on the show, we're gonna have to learn how to pronounce his name. All right. So, all right. So if you don't get this next one, we can't have you on. We can't air your episode. All right. So, but you're 3 for 3. You've gotten yourself a mug. One played a
Yay.
princess in a galaxy far, far away, and the other asked for Jesus to take the wheel.
Jewel.
Oh,
Carrie.
let me.
Wait.
I'll reread you the hint.
Yeah.
One played a princess in a galaxy far, far away. A princess.
Yes.
And the other asked Jesus to take the wheel. So what was the actress and musician's first name?
Oh, right. Musician. Right. Carrie.
Carrie, yeah. So Carrie Fisher and Carrie Underwood.
Gotcha.
I was
I
like,
gotcha.
oh no, did she just
No.
say Jewel?
Well, I was thinking Jewel. I don't know why Jewel popped up, but it's funny because I know. Well, I'm not gonna. Okay, I know
ahead.
one of these. Like I didn't know Carrie Underwood. I've heard that before, but I don't follow Carrie Underwood, so I didn't know the guy
No
with
worries.
the vision. I was lucky to get Paul. As soon as you said wings, I was like, oh, it's probably Paul because it's wings. What's the question? You know what I mean? It's like your mind would just start trying to. Anyway, I got one more to go.
One more to go. So you got
All right.
your book. You got your mug and you got your book.
This one's just our funsies now.
Yeah. All
So-
the pressure's off.
One played a senator from Alderaan. The other played the guitar on the Stairway to Heaven.
Jimmy.
Jimmy. Yeah. Jimmy
Yep.
Smith and Jimmy Page.
Jimmy Page. Yeah.
All right. So 5 for 5. And you were all nervous. You see how good you did?
Well, it's it's when you have to recall that like now. Like I'm thinking, okay, Bail Organa's who played my dad? Okay, I'm thinking Robert Plant. No, he's the lead singer. Who's Jimmy Page? Okay, so it's like your mind just kind of blocks all that stuff. Of course, I know Jimmy Pages and Jimmy Smith. You know what I mean? It's
Right.
It's just funny when you're put on the spot. That's when
I'm sure. Yeah. So,
everything
yeah,
goes.
so 5 for 5. So when we're all done here, don't hang up right away. I'll need to get your shipping address and we'll make sure we get those out to you. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right,
you.
Julie. Thank you so much for being on the show today. Where can people go to find out more about your work?
My Instagram, which I've created a 13-episode travel vlog, because when I traveled a lot, I found all these little tips and tricks. And I
cool.
tried to make it funny, like a 2-minute little video of don't do this because it won't work, or this is a little trick on how to get out of a parking ticket, things like that. And that's Julie M, as in Marie, my middle name, Julie M Dolan at Instagram, and it's on Instagram TV.
Okay.
Twitter is just call me Leia,
Mm-hmm.
and my Facebook is Julie Dolan actress.
Okay. Cool.
Awesome. We will be sure to put those descriptions so that people can find them in the links below.
Thank
All
you.
right. Now, remember, guys, that subscribing is the single most important thing you can do. It ensures that we get more amazing guests like Julie and these funny moments for you to listen to. Please subscribe. It helps more than you know. And go and check out Julie on Twitter and Instagram. You're not going to be sorry that you did. I follow her on Twitter. I have a lot of fun with it. I didn't know she had an Instagram account until just now, and I will be following that here shortly. And remember, that sounds stalkerish, didn't it? Yeah. I meant that in a completely non-stalkery way. So there's that. All right. But remember, if you're not happy with the content of our videos, all you have to do is submit, in triplicate, of course, to our complaint department. And that will be processed by the cats from Lothal. And don't worry, they take those complaints very seriously and they get to them all. Right, meow.
Well, thanks again, Julie. We truly appreciate you being on the show today.
Thank
Yeah.
you. I had such a good time. You guys are awesome.
Oh, thank you, Julie. Thank you so much. All right. Goodbye, everybody. Thanks for watching.
Bye.
Our show is brought to you by our charity sponsor, the Red Shirt Widows and Orphans Fund, which supports the Wish Upon a Teen Foundation that helps out sick kids when they need it most. And just imagine the comfort you'll give Red Shirt crewman number 87. He'll know that when he puts on the red shirt and gets electrocuted on the stage of Josie and the Pussycats 6 minutes into the second set, that he didn't leave his family destitute and without hope, because the Red Shirt Widows and Orphans Fund has his back and his guitar pick.
On behalf of the rest of the hosts of Funny Science Fiction, we'd like to thank you for listening to this episode. If you'd like to be a guest on one of our future episodes, please contact us by means of our Facebook group, Funny Science Fiction. You can find us on Twitter or Instagram using the handle @FunnySci-Fi, or you can go to DraytonAllen.com and click the Contact Me link at the bottom of the page. Thanks again. Hope you enjoyed the episode.
Copyright 2020 by Drayton Allen. Original music by Jordan Michaels. Reference to any specific product or entity mentioned in this podcast does not constitute an endorsement or recommendation of or by Funny Science Fiction or its sponsors. The views expressed by guests are their own, and their appearance on the program does not imply an endorsement of them or any entity they represent. If you have questions about this disclaimer, please contact us via email at DraytonAllen@DraytonAllen.com.